Smash Up Munchkin adds 8 new factions and some new card types to Smash Up. It works as a standalone box and as an expansion. AEG provided this in exchange for an honest review. I reviewed the base set in 2019 and I've added a link to that video at the end of this one. Because of that, I'll just focus on the new content. Clerics are good at modifying minions and returning cards from/preventing cards from going to your discard pile. After scoring Hotel of Holiness, minions go to the tops of decks rather than the discard pile. Whack-a-Ghoul is protected from undead monsters. Dwarves are simple. They live for and love treasure. The mines make minions stronger if they have treasure on them. Treasure Path earns players treasure the first time they play a minion there. Elves help opponents in order to help yourself, usually either with extra actions or by modifying minions. Helper's Hollow boosts other players' minions on a player's turn. When you play a minion at the treehouse, choose another player to draw a card. Halflings just keep coming out, and some of their actions even modify them by canceling or ignoring abilities. You can't play a minion elsewhere until you play one at the birthday party. Subterranean Lair allows you to play an extra minion if you don't already have one there. While mages can do a few other things, they're mostly about discarding cards in order to gain effects. The first time you play a minion on the Dimension Doors, you may discard a card to play an extra minion. Draw a card after playing a minion on the Mage's Tower. Orcs are a power faction. They're strong, can destroy, move, and bully other minions, and can ignore other players' actions. If the garrison breakpoint is 22 or higher, the top 3 players gain an additional VP. Minions aren't affected by other actions in the pits. Thieves do what you'd expect. Take extra treasure, discard treasure for effects, and so on. Players with at least 1 minion in the coffers draw a treasure card after scoring. Draw a card after playing a treasure on the Thieves' Guild or on a minion there. Warriors want to prove themselves by defeating monsters, which I'll explain in a moment. They add monsters to bases in order to destroy them and gain benefits, although they can boost themselves a bit too. Draw a treasure after destroying a monster on Bastion. After destroying a monster on the Gauntlet, play another monster. Monsters and treasures? Bases will instruct you to put a certain number of monsters on them, making the base harder to score. As you destroy monsters, you'll gain treasure cards and lower the base's breakpoint. Monsters go into their own discard pile. Treasures go into your hand until you use them. They add new minions, but mostly actions. Once used, place them in their own discard pile. 8 new factions either to add to your Smash Up game or as your introduction to it. That's Smash Up Munchkin. Smash Up Munchkin, including setup and takedown, usually takes just under an hour. 2 and 3 player games might work on an average coffee table. Save 4 player games for the dining table. There's a lot of reading on the cards, and you'll need to calculate the points on a base every time a card is played there. Honestly though, it's a fun way to practice math. Kids 8 and up might benefit from playing this, but might need help tracking everything. Maybe use poker chips or dry erase boards to keep the totals visible. Monsters can slow Smash Up Munchkin a bit, especially if none of the factions in play can destroy them easily. Then again, if you have factions that gain treasures easily, you'll have a whole bunch of extra cards to help you score a base. Don't get me wrong, I think they're both cool additions. Also, playtime isn't actually any longer than the standard Smash Up game. It just feels slower at times. Going in order of how I rank the factions, elves are so mean and sneaky. I love that. The better you know all the factions and their cards, the better you are at making them work. I know that goes against what I complained about in Cease and Desist, but what I mean is that elves do different things depending on other factions. Tricksters mess with opponents. Ninjas mess with bases. Warriors do something a bit different, destroying minions so you can grab treasures before other players, and possibly lower a base's breakpoint where you have minions in order to grab all the VP. They're pretty easy though, especially with Big Hero and Eternal Hero. Pair them with the faction that ignores other players' actions and you're nearly unstoppable. If you grab a faction like the Orcs to make sure that you, and not an opponent, get Gimme, destroy a minion and transfer the action to one of your minions, you're protecting yourself even further. Orcs are fun because how you can pile on opponents. It's very much a take that faction. While they're powerful, their minions are a little uneven. 3 have a power of 5, and 7 are only 2 and 3. You're going to have to work to spread Dork Orc and Hammer Slammer around, then finish the job with your heavy hitters. Pair them with a faction that lets you move around, pirates for example, in order to set up the perfect attack, or the shapeshifters so you can bring specific minions out. Halflings are cool, but are worthless unless you can either get a lot of minions out or the other faction has powerful minions. The zombies, thanks to Malcrawl and not enough bullets, could work well. Clerics bring cards back, so don't pair them with dwarves or ghosts. They work with mages because of the effects gained by discarding. Like the clerics, dwarves are going to fill your hand because they gain so much treasure. Because of that, these factions make it hard to go through your deck. Bad draws at the start can hurt. Mages have the opposite issue. You want to discard in order to gain effects. Like the ghosts, timing's important, and that makes them not as fun to play with factions that don't recycle cards. I rank thieves last because they're a combination of my least favorite parts of the game: bloating your hand and hoping luck is on your side in terms of timing. Thankfully, the treasures are usually helpful, so it bothers me less in Munchkin than with the regular Smash-Up decks. This is a pretty cool expansion that I think works best if you stick to only these factions rather than mixing them with ones from the other boxes. It's not one of my favorites, but I definitely enjoy and recommend it. Keep watching for more Smash It reviews each month as I go through our entire collection.